Hi everybody and welcome back to Nick Talks. This week's wonderful guest is a friend of mine, Trevor Jones. Trevor's done something I've never met anyone else who's done. He woke up one morning and went, I'm sick of this. I'm sick of politicians. I'm sick of these political parties. I'm going to start my own because I want my party to represent my area and not be distracted with other things going on across the country. And we're going to get into that in a minute. I first met Trevor, it would have been early last year. I was running for Mayor of Greater Manchester and somebody put me in contact with Trevor saying, well, if you want your messages getting out across the Bolton area, Trevor's the man to speak to. So very kindly he came down to my house. We sat down, we have a chat, and I went several times up to Bolton to talk to people living there on the market side, in the street, trying to get people to understand what I was going to do for Bolton as the Mayor of Greater Manchester. So with no further ado, welcome Trev to the podcast.
Hey Nick, good afternoon and thanks for inviting me to this interview.
No problem. To it. Yeah, no, I really wanted to get you on because, like I said, you've done something I've never met anyone has done before. Other people have done things like this, but I never knew them. So I just wanted to get you on to talk about basically Bolton for Change. So you set up a political party, which I wouldn't even know how to do. From scratch, you named it Bolton to Change because all you're interested in is the area you live in called Bolton in Greater Manchester. How did you do that and why did you do that?
Well, I actually stood in local council in the elections and I kind of was on my own doing it and I did pretty well. Somebody asked me to stand. I only joined a party to stand. I'd only been in there a couple of weeks, put my name forward as a candidate. And as soon as it was finished, I got involved with the Brexit party. So I left that little setup. And then I thought, well, the Brexit party wasn't doing anything at the beginning. There wasn't into local elections, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to start my own little party. And I thought it can only be like a business, and I started my own building business in 1984, which is a long time back. So I just thought, well, it's like a business, but it doesn't make any money. So I thought it can't be hard. So
I've run a couple of businesses just like that made no money.
Well, it's true. It doesn't make no money. It cost me money at the beginning. But what happened is I just looked around Bolton. I'll be honest, I was approached by the Conservatives, had a meeting with the leader at the time, the late David Greenhouse, and a lovely fella, but I decided it just wasn't for me. I'm no Conservative and I'm certainly not Labour. So I just thought, well, I am the party that is me, and that's Bolton for Change. So I just thought, I need a colour. Orange is the best colour by far. It's not been taken with your dirty mustard with Liberal and your reds with your Labour and your blue with your Conservatives. Got a colour for our biggest, most famous building we've got is probably our town hall. So I got that little thing grew up. And then the name, and I came up with the name, and a mate of mine actually come up with the For Change bit. He was helping me at the beginning, but he's got a lot of business issues, so he kind of called it a day right at the beginning. So I was on my own for a while before another chap, Noel Harris, joined in with me. Because you can't do everything on your own. It is hard work, a lot harder than I thought, I'll be honest. And there's many a time it gets you down when things are not going to plan and you're laying out money and you're going out in all weathers and try to get things sorted. And it does get depressing, but you just got to stick at it. And I tell people who come on board, don't expect things overnight because it doesn't work like that. It's not like a business. You'll set off, you'll get a good job and make a load of money. You won't.
Tell me about Bolton for Change. So who are Bolton for Change and why are they different? And why should the people of Bolton vote for Bolton for Change?
Well, we wanted a party what wasn't... I mean, all these Labours and your Conservative councillors, really, they're just lip service, aren't they, for somebody above them. And they say, listen, we don't do that. All Greater Manchester towns do this. We do that. You can't say that. You can't say this. I mean, they turn up for work. They sit in there. They collect a wage. I think they collect about £11,600 in Bolton. And you can't do anything. They've no clout whatsoever. All they do is the leader says, this is what's happening and we need your vote. Really, they're just there to make up the numbers.
It's always about towing the party line.
Exactly. That's what it is. That's what they've got to do. They've got to do what they're told them. So nothing ever changes because they're not, even you kind of even your leader of the council's not got much clout. He thinks he has, and the people think he has, but they don't. They're told what to do. And I didn't want that. And I thought, well, I'd run a business, successful business. So I thought, I don't know anybody in that, without flying my own kite, I don't know anybody in that council who'd be as good as me. I might as well tell you. That's the way I look at it. So I thought, I'm not in it for me. I'm not interested in me. I'm in it for Bolton. I was born in Bolton. I've lived here all my life. I've seen changes, massive changes, and it needs people who've got an idea how to sort things out, and improve things. And we just haven't got that. We've got people who are there for the South, the career politicians. They're not interested in Bolton. They might pretend they are, but they're not. Most of them are there for the South.
And I completely agree. I think that's the problem we have throughout the country. You hit the nail on the head when you said career politicians. It's people who are always saying to themselves, what can I do so I'm elected again in 3 years, 4 years time? I'm not worried about 10 years, 20 years from now. I just want to get elected again. So what can I do? Where someone like me and someone like you is saying to ourselves, what can I do to improve this area? And if I don't get it voted in, that means that people don't want it. But I'm not going to water down what I'm going to do just to get your vote, because if I get in, I'm going to improve everything. If you like it or not, this is what I'm going to do.
Yeah, and that upsets a lot of people, because I usually say that a lot of people who know me personally know I set things as I don't mess about. I just set things what I feel, whether they like it or not. And that goes against you sometimes, because you'll find most councillors will not want to rock the apple cart. They'll say they'll not go on certain subjects because it'll lose them a certain amount of the votes. They'll not get involved in, there's a dispute. They'll not get involved because some people are for that, some people on one side of that dispute, some people are on another. But I've always made decisions, and I'll make decisions whether it helps me or not. And I probably know I've done myself a bit of damage with saying what I've said. But I look at it from kind of a sensible business, common sense point of view. And that's the way forward. We need to change Bolton. And if you can't change it by being in there, the only thing you can do is start a party and hope people get behind the party, and let's see what we can do.
We need more people in politics who have done things in life outside of politics, run a business, run a charity, done all those sort of things, because that gives those politicians the experience of how to make decisions. People think making decisions is easy, but it's not easy, because all your decisions have consequences, and you need to be aware of those consequences, but yet still make the same decision, the right decision, knowing it's the right decision, but I might get flack for 6 months. But I know in 10 years' time, everyone's going to go, wow, that was the right decision, and look at what we've done now. But this short-termism, always worried about votes and always worried about getting elected again, is doing so much damage to everybody. So let's get into Bolton for Change. So what is Bolton for Change standing for, and why? I understand why you're different. Why is this party different?
Well, it's different, but all our policies are common sense. They're not silly policies. We've got a great amount of stuff we've been involved in, a lot of common sense things, and we've got people on board who actually know what they're doing. I mean, at the moment, we've got people running things in Bolton who don't know what they're doing. So we've got people who've come on board. And that's been one of the hardest things, getting good people on board. But as time goes on, you get more and more people. And you need somebody in a subject, every subject. And we've got somebody more or less now who, we've got ex-nurses and people like that. And we've got a couple of teachers involved. And obviously, when they come over and decide to help you, you're taking all that expertise as well. You're getting all that on board.
Give me some examples of how this experience has helped formulate your policies. Or what policies have you got which you think are common sense that people have told you they want?
Well, where I live, so this is just something what's happened this morning. Where I live, near my house, we've got, I think, 6 or 7 health centres within a mile of where I live in Bolton. 6 or 7, which is quite a lot. We've got 2 wards, Falmouth and Kersley, who 2 full wards, they don't have an health centre. Now, I've got, where I live, we've got 6 or 7, and their 2 wards don't have nothing. They've got a doctor's surgery, you can prescribe stuff and all this kind of stuff, but there's no proper, you can't get loads of basic medical things that when you're elderly you need. So they have to catch, some people have to catch 3 buses to an health centre near me from the other side of Kersler, let's say. Well, when you're ill, you don't want to be catching 3 buses, and people, especially now with the way things are, a lot of people can't afford 3 buses. But anyway, that's just something we've been involved in. So we, along with these people in these 2 wards, decided to do a petition, which was going at the council today, but it's been postponed for a short while because we having a speech with it at the council, and it's and we got 3,000 signatures in a weekend, in a weekend and a half, towards an health centre for these 2 wards, and that was with the help of these nurses who are on board with us, who explained to me about everything, because a lot of stuff medically I don't know, and they said, well, this is what we're doing, and this is what we should have it, and all the, and because of this, we've been on board with this health centre thing, which is kicked off no end. That's just one thing we've been involved in the last couple of days, sorting that out.
See, what that sounds to me like is at some point, councillors in the council were trying to have certain wards they could guarantee would vote for them, and injected the resources into those wards, but we're looking at other wards going, they're not going to vote for us, so therefore let's not give them anything, not to punish them, but let's spend this money in the wards that are going to vote for us. And from what you just said then is absolutely shocking. You've got 7
I've
and
got
2 wards.
7 I think I can name within a mile and a half. I could walk to every single one of them.
Yeah, but 2 wards down the road don't have any.
No, and it's the most deprived. Farmworth is the most deprived ward in Bolton. It hasn't got proper health facilities, and neither has Kersler. Now these people, the Boltonians, they should have what everybody else has got. You can't, I've got so many near my house. I've got 100 feet down the street, and yet they've got nothing, which is wrong.
And what's your ward called?
Mine's Tongue with the Off, but we've got one on Crompton Way, we've got one on Ainsworth Lane, we've got one at Breakmate, and I'm in the middle. Funny enough, I'm in the middle of all these, which is, like I say, we've got the water meetings one on Blackburn Road, and I'm kind of central to all these. And you think we've got all them, and they've got nothing. Nothing. They've got a doctor's surgery which can't do, basic things like chiropody and dentistry and all this kind of stuff.
Oh, don't talk about dentists to me.
It's something we've been involved in for the last few weeks, and it's, the petition's all finished and done with, and that's why it's gone to the council today. But,
And if you can change one thing in Bolton Council, what would it be?
The council. The full councillors. Yeah, I wouldn't. I'm not. They don't like me, and I don't care. I've not got much time for anybody who gets money for doing very little. I've never have done. Being self-employed, I've taken people on. They've started in the morning. Within a couple of hours, I thought, this bloke's not up to scratch. I can't carry anybody as a company. You can't. So I've just thought, right, yeah, listen, we'll pay you up for this morning. Goodbye. And that's the way it's got to be. I know it's harsh, but you've got to be like that in business. That's how you survive.
If only we could take this into local government. I worked for Manchester Council for nearly a decade. Some of the stories I could tell you of the waste, the incompetence, the best story I've got was I wanted to buy a £1 picture frame for a certificate for some kid who'd done something really well. So I designed on the computer a citizen award to give this kid because he was a troubled kid. He did something good. So I was trying to reward him and show him doing positive stuff has positive consequences. So I went to Petty Cash. If you've got a quid, I want to buy this from the pound shop. We don't do petty cash anymore now. You need to order one online. Well, all right, order it. So the office manager ordered it and then gave me a receipt for $15.99 and said, that'll come out your budget. And I went, it's £1 in the shop across the road. She went, well, that's how we've got to do it. It came the next day and it was exactly the same as the one in the pound shop, and it cost the council $15.99. If I knew it was going to cost that, I'd have bought it.
Well, they had that kind of deal, didn't they? They used to have a caretaker who'd go and repair things in the council, and bulb's gone, right? Get old Sid out. Now it's a big 5 minutes form fill in, and let's assess it and a method statement and all this stuff, and just for going up a ladder to change a bulb, and that bulb's now 76 quid change instead of like a fellow in his tea break. It's gone crazy, but there's a massive problem we've got probably most councils. We've got a lot of people making decisions on our money who don't know that job enough to be making decisions. Like civil works. I have a construction company, so I obviously know a bit more about civil works than the average person. And you've got people, they'll give a price on the job and they've not got a clue what it should be. And they'll have a little thing. Do we go for that? They want 220,000 for that. Well, yeah. Well, he's voted, so I'll vote. Yeah, right. We've all had a vote. Yeah. That's it. It was the lowest. It was the lowest that was the lowest. We put it out to tender, and that was the lowest price we got.
And the biggest thing with the councils and the councillors is no one is ever held accountable for the money they spend. We never then drag councillors over the coal fires by saying, this was 9 times more expensive than you could have bought online. Why did you take this contract when it was cheaper here? Or why did you have this contract when that company was almost bankrupt when you took them on? Or why did you take this contract where the owner of the company is your cousin's brother-in-law?
There's a lot of that.
And we never ever drag anybody over the coals to say, you're accountable for this money. And my 10 years in the council, what I learned was no one ever calls their budget taxpayers' money. They always call it my budget, or if it's money you don't know where it came from. In Manchester, we called it funny money. Oh, who's funding that? I don't know, it's just funny money. Well, do you know what? It's called taxpayers' money. It's always taxpayers' money. And we waste it.
You're right. Like you say, there's the wastage. I'd probably say as much as 1/3 of what they spend, they're paying over. As much as 1/3.
Yeah, and that wouldn't surprise me.
I mean, we've been involved in big jobs, and I've gone in and they wanted silly money, and I've chipped them and all kinds and got it done for half the price. And I know you could do that down there with all these people, but they don't know you do that kind of stuff. So we'll just pay full whack for everything by somebody who's give the job away, who's not got a clue what the job is about. That's what it is. It's kind of they're not skilled enough. And I'm not having a go at them. They just put the name down. Oh, I'll go on one of them committees. Just sounded good at the time, but it's our money they're spending.
And it makes them feel special that they're on the committee. So if I'm on the finance committee,
being on these committees as well, so it does make them feel special.
Oh, it does, yeah. And they're saying to themselves, I'm obviously clever because I'm a councillor. I'm on this committee. I must understand these things.
Yeah. You see, getting quality people to get involved, it's difficult because they can make more money on their own thing. Why should I go and mess about for the council for 11,600 quid a year or whatever, when you could go in business and earn a lot more, and that'll take more of your time. Your council takes your time up, and I lose a lot of money through being involved in all this political stuff than just getting up and going to work. Sometimes I have to finish early because of Bolton for change stuff, and
But don't forget, this £11,000 isn't a wage; it's expenses.
Yeah, it's expenses, so it's not.
Some of these people have full-time jobs, and they do this on the side. And if they haven't got time to do it, they don't do it, and they still claim all the expenses.
We've got people and councillors in there now decided they're not standing again, and they decided, I'm not going to mention any names, but there's a couple of them decided they got in for 4 years, and within a few weeks of getting in, they decided after the 4 years they're not going to stand again. For whatever reason, and them people have never been to council, never been involved in anything, never done any, you can't phone them, you can't get, so all they've done is got in and they're taking a wage for 4 years. And when that 4 years is up, they'll go back to their other job and think, I've just had 4 years, of kind of £45,000, and I've done nothing for it, absolute nothing other than win an election. And how do you win elections? You knock on doors and wander about the streets. That's the top and bottom of it. It's not because you're clever, because you're willing to go out in all weathers and admire the people at the doors and, that kind of stuff.
So now you mentioned knocking on doors, let's talk about what are the ups and downs of running a political party? What are the things that have drove you mental, and what are the things that have made you go to bed at night smiling like a Cheshire cat?
The hardest bit about it is getting people to help you, because it's very difficult when you're starting from scratch because people think, well, they're not going to get anywhere or not at the moment. So what's the point in me wasting my time either standing as a candidate or giving him help? And you do get people who turn up and say, I'll help you. But as soon as they realise, well, it means going out and putting our gazebo up and sitting on a main road for like 10 hours, they soon disappear. And going about in all kinds of weathers and delivering leaflets and all that kind of stuff, which is all hard work. You know, you're walking, you know, miles and miles and miles, and you're not being paid for it. You think, I could do this for a company and get money in. So what do I want to be helping him for? So you do, but we have got some good people who've come on board now and they're really passionate about it and they're doing it. And I always tell them, I said, listen, this party, I started it, but it's not me. It's not for me. I'm not bothered. I'll be honest with you, I'm not bothered if I become a councillor or not. It's irrelevant. The thing is, we needed a party in Bolton other than the big two. And I looked at some of these minor parties we've got here, and I think we've got about 3 minor parties, but they're covering 1 ward and 2 wards. You can't achieve anything with 2 wards. You'd struggle being in charge of the council achieving anything. But being over 2 wards, you've got another 18 wards that if they think different, you're going nowhere. And that's the problem.
You're always going to be voted down if all you can ever have is 2 wards. You're never going to vote for anything.
Of course, yeah. And the only way you can do anything as 2 wards is by linking up with the party who's in control. Well, then you've no say. You're just like...
And then you got to do as you're told.
You do as you're told, and you just become a part of that party, which we've got here in Bolton at the moment. We've got the Conservatives made up with a couple of minor parties and the Liberals. And you just think, you might as well shut your party and join the Conservatives, because that's all you are. You don't never vote against them. You never do anything different. And all you've done is that. And people have sussed this now. People of Bolton have sussed it. And they think, well, I'm not voting for them anymore, that minor party, because I might as well just vote for the main one, because that's all they are. You know, they're just exactly the same as the Conservatives. We don't want to be that. We've said from the beginning, if we ever get any, well, what we will eventually, but when we do get bigger, we won't be doing no deals with any of the big two. That's the reason why we stood a party for Bolton and we stand in every single ward. We wouldn't say, well, we'll join up with you and let you continue damaging Bolton, which both of them have done. We said, well, what's the point in having you in? You've not done anything. We've had 40 years of Labour in Bolton who brought the town to its knees. We've had 3 years of the Conservatives who are incompetent and not clever enough to get us back off our knees. And that's what we've got. And the only way around it is people like us, who people who could sort out the problems. You know, we need to be given the chance.
Give me an example of something that made you go to bed grinning like a Cheshire cat. So you talked about the downs. Give me one or two examples of the ups.
When you get people phone you up and you say, you know, we've had like 4 in a row come on as candidates. And it was weird, right at the beginning, this is a funny one, right at the beginning, when I started it, within a few weeks, I was getting phone calls because most councillors panicked as soon as they saw this new party appear, who was, you know, they've all seen these little minor parties. And that's what they call with the Electoral Commission, by the way. It's not me being, you know, out of hand. They're called minor parties. So they've seen all these minor parties start up, and they've no big worry. Oh, they're over there. Oh, they're over there. They're not near my ward, so it doesn't affect me. They'll never be big, because biggest can ever go is three councillors or 6 councillors. You know, so but when they saw us appear, then hang on, this new party's coming. Bolton for Change. It's led by this builder who's been a builder for 40 odd years, whatever, he's a bit of, you know, he'll not, you know, he doesn't stand any messing about, so he'll get things done, this fella. People who know me anyway. And they thought, we've got this builder starting this party off when he's doing every ward. He's not doing 1 or 2, he's doing all 20. And then when we set off, a lot of them started panicking, and you won't believe how it happened. And it was my decision, and nobody in council probably knows this, but we got that many phone calls off councillors wanting to jump ship to us. We met a couple and we decided, if you're not good now in council and you've been in for 4 years, why suddenly, if you jump to us, are you going to be this fantastic council that's any use to us? And that's the reason we didn't. But I thought one night we got to 7 councillors who'd approach us for coming on board. Now, if you know Bolton at all, we've got like Conservatives and Labour like this in council. Conservatives are, like five councillors in front of the other. If I'd have took them 7 councillors on board, I would have been the deciding factor of what happens in the council. Do you follow? Within 6 weeks of starting the party, if we'd have said, we're not bothered about taking useless councillors on board, we'll just have them anyway, just because it gives us a bit of clout. If we'd have done that, and took them 6 or 7 councillors on straight away, we could have been the deciding factor easily within 2 months. Who we decide whether it's Labour or Conservatives here. We could have done that. And it was hard to believe that when I got all these calls and I got a group together who they had a negotiator speaking on their behalf. And when he phoned me up and said, listen, I've got 6 here interested. And I just started laughing like one night because I thought, you've started a new party and within weeks we've got the councillors wanting to jump ship to you. So it says how much faith they've got their own party.
And I think that's a good point. I think that shows how unhappy they are, because like I say, almost 10 years working for Manchester Council, worked with dozens and dozens of councillors, and the vast majority of them were nice people and were trying to do it for the right reasons. But once they're in the council, they soon realise there's nothing you can do. And the more you try to change things, the more you get told, be quiet, shut up, do what you're told. Otherwise, we're going to take you off the list at the next election. You won't be elected again. So they do browbeat councillors. And the fact you had 6 or 7 wanting to come to you shows that they're not happy.
Yeah, they weren't. We met up with a couple at the beginning, and then, and I thought, you know what? I don't want you. And I thought, I tell you what, I'd rather have some bloke who's been in business or done a job all his life, and he's streetwise, and he's known what it's like to be skint, and now he's not skint because he's made a bit of a whatever. He's had a bit of a life first. I'd rather have that guy than somebody who's messed about that town hall thinking they're high and mighty, making decisions well out of their kind of, their reach type of thing. I'd rather have that person on board and get him through the setup with us and get him as a councillor. Somebody you've got some kind of, admiration for, rather than somebody who's just jumped in there. And we've got a few of them.
I agree. How can you go on the streets of Bolton telling people we're different to all the other parties when they look at you and you go, you're full of all the people who've been in there for years. That's not a message that will sell.
Yeah. Your problem you've got with politics, absolutely everybody's had enough of it. They've all had enough nationally, both nationally and locally. People have had enough. And when you've had councils, who've done what these lot have done, wrecked the town, they lose faith in you. They've no faith. They just think you're all the same. You get tired with the same brush. Oh, they're all the same when they get in. They think you want to get in. Most people think you want to get into, for yourself.
And for the money, yeah.
And for the money. Which we've got a lot of people who lose a lot of money by becoming councillors from what they're doing now. But they live here, the family are here, the kids are here, they've grown up here. It's their town, they're Boltonians. They want to put the town back on its feet because they're invested here with their lives, not because they want 11,650 odd quid or whatever,
So my last question is something I knew when I first met you that you wanted to achieve through Bolton for Change, and you want Bolton to leave Greater Manchester, which for me, as someone who wanted to be mayor of Greater Manchester and was looking forward to actually bullying you and telling you what to do, then I'm quite disappointed, because one of my highlights was be able to say to Trevor Jones, I'm the mayor, do as you're told. So I'm only joking. What is it about people from Bolton that they want to leave Greater Manchester and go back to being part of Lancashire?
I think, we did a poll on it, but 90% of Bolton have never really accepted the South as being Manchester. My birth certificate says Trevor Jones, Bolton, Lancashire. It doesn't mention anywhere about me being a Mancunian or anything like that. It says Bolton, Lancashire. We've been in Lancashire for over 1,000 years. Suddenly in 1974, we get moved to another county. People say, well, we're still in Lancashire. Well, we're in the Greater Manchester administration. And we wasn't asked. I mean, it was just done in 1974. Ted Heath, we're going to do all this. And apparently with the European help. And we're going to shift all these people. And it's not just Bolton. there's there's a counties group which is massive, getting massive now all over the UK, which talks about it, and there's different ones about Hull in Humberside and North Yorkshire and all that. There's not just us. There's people in Cheshire who has moved to Merseyside. It's a massive thing.
No, absolutely. And for people who don't know anything about this, Greater Manchester is a made-up area. It never existed before 1974. It was something, there's no history to Greater Manchester. It was something that someone created and lumped all these areas together. Now, I'm not saying I'm for it or against it. I really don't know. But I just found it quite interesting that the people of Bolton have got strong views on it.
We've always been from Lancashire. I'm a Lancastrian. I'm not a Mancunian. And apparently Manchester never got rich because of the ship canal and all these towns nearby supplying cotton and what have you, and Manchester. We're a big place. I think for our biggest place is from Blackrod to Preston in Kersley. And I think it's something like 13 miles across. It's bigger than Manchester. It's Manchester Central. It's a massive place. I think we've got 287,000 people live in Bolton. So it's not, we're up to 300,000 people. And we're paying into this administration, getting very little back. I mean, we paid in 2021, we paid 22.7 million in and got 3.9 million back. Well, we've got a deficit of 62 million at the moment in Bolton, I think.
That sounds a lot. That sounds a lot like the EU paying money into something and getting nothing back.
People are having a go at me because obviously I was a Brexit Party candidate. And they said, "Oh, it's just like the EU." Well, we got out of that 60% out of it. Oh, we could never do it. It's going to be difficult. Well, no, it's not just us. There's other towns involved in this country, who feel the same about where they've been put. We had a poll on it, and like I said, we did about 1,236 people, I think, over a weekend, and it came back at 96%. 96% of all Australians. And when you found the little 4% who wanted to stay, you checked on the Facebook and they're from Manchester. And that's what you're about. I'm not having to go at Manchester or anything like that. But I walk through Manchester and I see a difference, a massive difference to Bolton. And it just looks like they've got more money. And they have our money.
That's probably a fair point when you're looking at Greater Manchester, that all those areas, the money is funneled into the city centre because, and people look at Manchester, and I mean, to begin with, most people don't understand the difference between Manchester and Greater Manchester. Once you leave Greater Manchester, it's all the same thing to most people. So, it's like, oh, Manchester, but they mean Greater Manchester or vice versa. But because we have a huge city centre, a financial centre, it's supported by the other 9 local authorities to a certain extent. But then we also have people in Manchester who then complain that we're supporting some of the outer areas. So there is a two-way street. But I'm a big believer in democracy. And if the people of Bolton were given a choice and wanted to leave Greater Manchester, then that's their choice. But my question to you is, where would the benefits be to joining Lancashire?
Well, we won't be given 22-odd million, would we, to over there? But
you might not be giving it. You wouldn't be giving that. You wouldn't be giving that to Manchester, but you may be giving that to Lancashire.
No, we won't do. We've spoke to Lancashire Council and we said, because our first thing we get asked about this, does Lancashire want us back? So obviously we can't. We've got to speak to them. So we've got a few people in Lancashire Council we speak to, high up people. We don't give the names out because they don't want the names beginning. We speak to these people and say, what's your views on it? And every single one we've spoken to a few, have said, we never wanted to lose Bolton. The older ones who remember it, who've been there years, the older people, we never wanted to lose Bolton in the first place. And they didn't, and that's where, and we've said, well, we're paying this money now to Greater Manchester administration. Would we be expected to pay? They said, well, no, because we'd be a borough, we're that big as a borough on our own anyway, that we'd just be in the county of Lancashire and run our own affairs, like I think they do in, other places within Lancashire. We'd want the best deal for Bolton, obviously, and we don't want to be spending 20 odd million to Lancashire.
Yeah, no, you should always want the best deal for your area. You should always want that. You should always want the best deal for your area.
Well, we're not getting it at the moment, are we? When you won't get Labour going against it because it's Andy Burnham. So Labour in Bolton, oh no, and you won't get them. Conservatives, they're not interested, are they? They're just interested in them. Don't forget, some of these councillors we've got are on the Greater Manchester board. Well, they're getting paid extra for that. It's like, you're going to sign yourself out of a job, are you? They don't. They're looking after themselves, which we previously said. This is about Bolton. It's not about you getting an extra £5,000 because you're on that committee or an extra £8,000 because you're on that. This is about the best for Bolton. And the best for Bolton, we think, we need a referendum. And if it came back and said, hey, I want to stay in Greater Manchester, sorry, we lost. Get on with it. We will do. But
Absolutely.
I'd be shocked if it was less than 90%. And I mean that much. I'd be shocked. And that's probably one of the reasons we get people, oh, it'll never happen. It can't be done. Well, it can be done. They said that with Brexit. And look what happened there.
Everything can be done. All it takes is will. Humans have achieved the impossible so many times. We can achieve what we want to achieve. If we dedicate time, energy, resources to it, we can achieve whatever we want to achieve.
If the people, if they give a referendum in Bolton, I would stay at my house on will vote to leave by a country mile,
Which again, it means if I'm ever mayor of Greater Manchester, it means I might not be able to bully you and tell you what to do, Trev.
I'm not, on about a good working relationship like we should have with the EU, but you can't be bullied. When people allow you to bully them, you lose out on everything. You can't be like that. You've got to be strong and say, listen, this is what's happening.
Yeah, you mentioned Andy Burnham, who is the current mayor of Greater Manchester. What has the mayor of Greater Manchester done for Bolton?
Absolutely nothing. I can't. The only thing he's done is this CAS, and we as Bolton for Change was the first party and the only party to put out a leaflet in Greater Manchester saying about it. In Bolton, we put this leaflet out. For
people who don't know what the CAS is, it's the Clean Air Zone, which is basically a congestion charge.
Yeah, when we first got involved in it, nobody had heard of it. We got tipped off on it right at the beginning. So I thought...
You told me about it when I was running for mayor.
Yeah, nobody had heard about it. And we went in taxi places in Bolton and we got these leaflets made, Bolton for Change against the CAS. And we was handing them out. And one, I'll not say the name of the taxi firm, they said, leave them on the counter. They weren't interested. And we were delivering leaflets, went to another place. And we had a table there that day near the taxi firm. And I went back an hour after and they were in the bin. They'd thrown the leaflets in the bin. Nobody, we were posting them and people were saying, you just tried to scarmonger so you get vote. You try to take Labour votes by scaremongering. This will never come out. And I wish I'd have saved all the messages of the people. This will never come out. It's just scaremongering. And then later, as it developed, it started coming out. And we missed a trick. We missed a mega trick as a party. We should have been the people who started that rethink thing on Facebook. We'd ended up with 84,000 members because we was well onto it 10 months before anybody had even dreamed of starting a Facebook on it. And we should have jumped on that at the beginning, but we didn't. And I spoke to the guy who started that and he admitted it. He just laughed and said, yeah, you should have done. You should have gone on it first. And we didn't do, but hey, we live and learn.
I talked about it during my campaign and I organised an event to protest the Clean Air Zone. And I spoke to haulage firms, I spoke to delivery firms, but I especially spoke to taxi firms across Greater Manchester. I even spoke to their federation representatives. And we held the event, and do you know how many people turned up?
Probably about 5 people.
Well, I wish we had 5, we had 3. And this was a new tax that was going to cripple taxis, cripple the haulage firm, and nobody cared and it's like, but they all cared when the signs started going up saying, this is coming in 3 months' time, and it's going to, yeah.
Say, do you realise what's happening? We'll put things out and say, this is this, and nobody will jump on it, and then eventually it'll start gaining traction, and then people, other parties jump on it, which, listen, at the end of the day, we can see people jumping on this Lancashire thing with us. We've got somebody yesterday say, oh, we got on this, 6 months ago. Well, we actually, when I started this party, we got it 6 months after starting the party in 2019. We started on our first thing about it, and other people have jumped on it, which is fair enough, but if it happens or we can move it forward, and I'm not bothered saying I was the first, it doesn't matter to me. If it happens, we've achieved something. And if we've, like we in council now, I know they watch exactly what we do. They really watch every move we make. And if we can speak about something and they change the ways, even now, because they feel threatened with her, even as a pressure group with her in the background, let's do that because he'll be onto that straight away. So, I know they do. They'll never admit they do. But I know we've said things and within a few days they've brought it up. Well, it's a bit coincidence you brought it up within a few days of it, So if that helps, it helps. But we need to.
Go on, I was going to say, let me end with this final question, which should only take you a sentence. If people steal your ideas and improve Bolton, do you care?
No, not one bit. It's not about me. It's not about me. It's not about Bolton for change. It's about Bolton.
And that's the answer every decent politician should have, that it's not about me and my party. If my ideas improve where I live, that's all that matters. So that's the perfect answer, Trev.
Perfect. And I'll just go back to my building and think, it worked. Look at Bolton now. That's what
fantastic.
We've got to do.
Excellent.
All right, Nick.
No,
thanks
that's
so much for your time.
No. Thank you for your time. Thank you for setting up the party. And hand on heart, if I lived in Bolton, you'd have my vote every single election, because that's the way forward. It's people voting for local parties who are concentrating on their area, with local people who have not been parachuted in from Oxford or Cambridge or London because they represent the party. Don't represent the party, represent the people, and local people do that best.
That's it. I'm a Boltonian. So we end on that. Thanks very much.
Oh, perfect. Cheers, Trev. See you soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.